So get this, we're diving into a story that starts with a letter from Mom, but 15 years after she's passed away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, talk about spooky mail, right? And that's just the beginning of this chilling tale in this fictional podcast called Whispers from the Other Side.
Ooh, I love that title.
Right. But we're not just looking at the ghostly stuff.
Oh, okay.
We're going deeper into, like, how this story uses those classic ghost story elements
Yeah.
to really dig into things like guilt and trauma and, those shadows from our past that we all have.
I think that's what makes these stories so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just the supernatural elements, it's that they often tap into these very real, very human fears and anxieties.
Yeah.
Like in this case, the story starts with a simple letter, but it immediately sets a tone of unease.
Right away.
Because we all know the power of words, especially from loved ones.
Oh, yeah. And there's this underlying suggestion, too, that those really strong emotions like guilt can actually tie a spirit to this world.
Ooh, that's interesting. And that idea of a soul being tethered by something?
Yeah.
It's not just a plot device for this story. It's something that resonates across so many cultures and traditions.
Coolly. And,
Go on.
it makes you wonder what experiences people throughout history have had to shape those beliefs.
Absolutely. It speaks to this very human need to understand what happens after death.
It really does.
And to grapple with the idea that our actions in life might have consequences that extend beyond our physical existence.
Yeah, wow. So we've got this letter from Eleanor's deceased mother, setting the stage right.
Right.
And then things at her house start to get weird.
Okay, like what kind of weird?
It's subtle at first, like objects moving or shadows that play tricks on the eyes.
I hate when that happens.
I know, right? And it's like the story and playing with our own tendency to see patterns, even then there might not actually be any.
It's like that phenomenon called pareidolia. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
Where our brains try to make sense of random stimuli.
Totally.
Especially when we're already feeling anxious or on edge.
That makes sense.
Think about, seeing faces in clouds or hearing voices in static.
Right, or like when you're home alone at night and every little creak sounds like a footstep.
Exactly. Our minds are wired to seek meaning even when it's not really there.
And that makes me think about Eleanor and how much of what she's experiencing is truly paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
Versus how much is her own mind just projecting her anxieties onto her surroundings.
That's a great point.
Especially because we find out she's got kind of a heavy backstory.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like a strange relationship with her mom, regrets she hasn't dealt with.
Ah, so she's got some baggage.
Yeah, it seems like she's spent years running from her past.
That's where the story starts to hit on something much deeper than just a typical haunting.
For sure.
We can't just bury those difficult emotions and expect them to go away.
We wish.
Right. Trauma, especially unresolved trauma, can linger and manifest in all sorts of ways.
I mean, have you ever noticed that when you're avoiding dealing with something internally,
Oh, yeah.
it can almost feel like external forces are working against you?
Totally. Like that internal struggle starts to bleed into your reality.
And that's exactly when things take a truly terrifying turn for Eleanor.
What happens?
She sees her mother's figure in the mirror.
No way.
Yeah, chills, right? And then followed by whispers blaming her, saying, "You left me."
That's so creepy.
It seems like her guilt is starting to take on like a physical form.
That's a powerful image, and it really speaks to how guilt can distort our perceptions.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When we feel guilty, we tend to be hyper aware of any evidence that confirms our negative self-perception.
That's true.
So if Eleanor already believes she's to blame for her mother's death,
Right.
any little sound or shadow could be interpreted as a sign of her mother's anger or disappointment.
It's like the house itself is feeding her guilt, becoming a stage for her inner turmoil to play out.
Yeah.
Slamming door, flickering lights, those persistent whispers.
Mm.
It all feels connected to her internal struggle,
Mm-hmm.
more than some outside force.
Which is interesting because that kind of challenges the traditional idea of a haunting, right?
Yeah, how so?
It suggests that the real source of the haunting is not the house.
Oh, I see.
But Eleanor herself,
Okay.
her guilt is the phantom, and it's manifested these external signs to torment her.
That's so eerie.
Right.
And that as if things weren't creepy enough, we learn about these vivid dreams that Eleanor keeps having about the car crash that killed her parents.
Okay.
But what's so unsettling is that she's screaming in the passenger seat,
Yeah.
but not out of fear.
Oh, wow.
It's like she wanted the crash to happen.
What do we make of those dreams?
Well, dreams are such a fascinating window into our subconscious, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
They often process emotions and thoughts that we might not be consciously aware of.
Totally.
And in Eleanor's case, it's like her dreams are trying to tell her something about that crash, something she's buried deep down.
Like little puzzle pieces.
Yeah.
Hinting at a level of guilt she hasn't even fully confronted yet.
It makes you think about your own dreams, too.
For sure.
Have you ever had one that felt so real,
Oh, yeah.
so charged with emotion, that you woke up feeling like it revealed something profound about yourself?
Definitely.
It's almost like our dreams can act as a sort of internal therapist, forcing us to confront those things we'd rather keep hidden.
Absolutely. And it's in those dreams that we often find the most profound insights.
Right. But sometimes, like in Eleanor's case, those insights can be terrifying.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if they hint at a truth we desperately want to deny. So we have this foundation of guilt trauma, repressed memories,
Yeah.
all swirling around Eleanor as the haunting intensifies.
Right.
It's like she's being bombarded by both internal and external forces.
Oh, man.
And it feels like the story is about to take a really dark turn.
Uh-oh. And it gets dark because those dreams, as unsettling as they were kind of leading us to the core of what Eleanor's been battling.
Okay.
Because she wasn't asleep during that car crash.
Oh, wow. I have to admit, the story totally had me thinking it was just a tragic accident.
Yeah.
And that her guilt was like from survivor's remorse or something.
That's what's so brilliant about this story.
Yeah.
It leads you to believe one thing, and then, bam, the reality is so much more complex.
Right.
Eleanor was awake during the crash. She had this huge fight with her mother, said things she probably regrets, in the heat of the moment.
Oh, man.
And then in a moment of rage, she grabs the steering wheel.
Talk about a split-second decision.
Yeah.
With life-altering consequences. No wonder she's haunted by guilt.
It's not just the loss of her parents.
Right.
It's knowing that she was responsible.
Fantastic.
It's a classic example of how repressed memories can surface in unexpected ways. The police blamed it on icy roads or whatever.
Avoid blaming a person.
Right, but Eleanor knew the truth.
Yeah.
She buried it deep down, but it found a way to manifest.
Oh, yeah.
First through those dreams,
Uh-huh.
and then through the boast and the accusations.
Like, her mind couldn't bear the weight of that secret anymore.
Right.
Like, it had to find an outlet, some way to express itself.
And what's more symbolic than a ghost?
Right. This vengeful spirit constantly reminding her of what she did, saying, "You left me."
It's literally the embodiment of her guilt.
And this is where this story goes beyond your typical ghost story.
Yeah.
It's not about some evil spirit out for revenge.
It's about confronting our darkest actions.
Yeah.
And trying to find some kind of atonement.
Makes you wonder how many real-life hauntings might be rooted in these kinds of psychological complexities.
It's like maybe those who claim to be haunted are actually being haunted by their own past.
Oh, that's deep.
Right.
It makes you question everything you thought you knew about ghosts and hauntings.
Like, what if they're not external entities at all, but
Yeah.
just projections of our own internal struggles?
That's a fascinating idea.
It speaks to the power of the human mind,
Totally.
to deceive itself and to find ways to process deep trauma.
So we've got Eleanor wrestling with this immense guilt,
Mm-hmm.
and the haunting is just escalating.
Of course.
It's like her attempts to deny or suppress the truth are making things worse.
Yeah, it often does.
So what happens next? Does she break free from this cycle of guilt and fear?
Well, the climax comes when Eleanor finally breaks down. She can't run from the truth anymore.
Oh, man.
So she stands before her mother's ghost and confesses everything. Admits her role in the crash, expresses her remorse, begs for forgiveness.
I can only imagine how terrifying that moment must have been.
Right.
To finally speak the truth you've been hiding for so long.
To confront the ghost that represents your deepest shame.
Yeah, like staring into the abyss of your own soul.
And in that moment of honesty, something shifts. The vengeful ghost softens. There's the sense of release, of acceptance.
Wow.
It's as if Eleanor's confession, her willingness to face the truth, has allowed her mother's spirit to find peace.
So the ghost disappears.
Exactly. But that's not the end of the story.
There's more.
Even though the external manifestation of her guilt is gone, Eleanor is still left to deal with the internal consequences.
Okay, now I'm really hooked. What happens?
So picture this. Eleanor standing there. The ghost is gone. She looks up and sees a vision of her younger self.
No way.
Not a ghost, but a vivid image of the girl she was on that night.
Wow, so even though her mom's ghost is gone, now she's haunted by this different kind of phantom.
Right.
The ghost of her past self, the girl who made that terrible choice.
It's like the story is saying that true healing isn't just about confronting external forces.
Right.
It's about confronting the parts of ourselves that we'd rather forget.
That's a powerful message. The haunting wasn't ever truly about the ghost.
It was about Eleanor's internal struggle.
And the mother's ghost disappearing doesn't mean the struggle is over,
No, it's just a new chapter. Now she has to face the hardest challenge of all,
which is
forgiving herself.
that ending is both chilling and thought-provoking. It flips the whole ghost story idea on its head.
It really does.
It's not about the supernatural. It's about coming to terms with our past actions and living with the consequences.
Yeah.
It suggests that sometimes the most terrifying ghosts are the ones we carry within ourselves. Yeah, it's like the real horror in Whispers from the Other Side isn't the ghosts or the creepy sounds. It's that realization that the real battle is inside Eleanor's own mind.
Exactly. The ghost, the whispers, the haunting are all just parts of her guilt and trauma manifesting.
It makes you think, what are the ghosts we create for ourselves, the ones that stick with us even after things have faded?
Right. What past actions, what regrets are we still dealing with?
I think we all have those ghosts in some way, right? Those moments we wish we could take back the choices that keep us up at night.
It makes you think about forgiveness, too. Not just forgiving other people, but ourselves.
Yeah, that's often the hardest part, isn't it?
It really is. We can be so much harder on ourselves.
And yet it's so important for healing and moving forward.
I agree.
That's what I find so powerful about this story. It's not just a spooky tale. It reflects the human experience.
Mm-hmm.
We all make mistakes, we have regrets, and we have to find a way to live with those ghosts.
But maybe those ghosts aren't something to fear.
Right.
Maybe they're something to confront, to understand, and ultimately to forgive.
That's a great way to put it. It's like recognizing that our past doesn't define us. It's just part of our journey.
And by acknowledging those mistakes, by facing those ghosts, we can start to move forward with more self-compassion.
This deep dive into Whispers from the Other Side has been amazing.
It has.
It's incredible how a fictional story can make us think so deeply about our own lives.
It's a good reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we carry inside.
Absolutely. And even with those inner demons, there's always hope.
There is hope for healing, for forgiveness, for a future where those ghosts don't control us.
So as you go about your day, maybe think about your own ghosts. What past hurts are you holding on to? What parts of yourself need forgiving? And remember, like Eleanor, you have the power to face those ghosts and find peace. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Whispers from the Other Side. Until next time, keep exploring the human experience, both the light and the dark.